All right, I told you if you have any questions about body language, just email them to me and I'd answer them. And you emailed them to me and I'm going to answer them. And if you have a question about body language, just email it to me at bodylanguagequestions@gmail and I'll get right on it. And yes, I'm wearing a hat because I need a haircut and haven't had time to get one yet. So I'm waiting for you to wail on me in the comments because everybody hates this hat but me, I think. All right, first question. Hi, Scott. I'm curious if you have ever happened upon any studies or papers relating to whether or not psychopaths or serial killers have any particular instruments or song styles or preferences or patterns to their life's musical soundtrack. There are no studies about that. As far as I know, there's no definitive research that psychopaths or musicians gravitate toward, that our musicians gravitate toward one style of music or another. It's pretty much unexplored territory. So if you want to get into it, man, there's your window right there. If you want to, I've searched about that for years. I've looked and looked and looked, can't find anything. There was a movie one time, I think it was called Diva, and this guy was a hitman. He was going around killing people, and in his ear, he always had this opera thing playing. You know, there are a couple of things where people are listening to operas when they're out killing people, but as far as real studies and scientific research, as far as I know, there is not one thing out there. I've looked, can't find anything. So that might be something you want to look into or do yourself. That'd be a great study. And believe me, I'd talk about it. That's awesome. Great question. All right, got a video. This one's from Deborah.
Okay. Hi, Scott. Deborah here again from Newfoundland, Canada. Getting a little bit more confident about the videos. So my question now is, can you name any channels that do behavioral analysis and they are not authentic? I'm asking because when the Depp Heard trial was happening, I was following this guy and I found him to be very judgmental. He had like made up his mind about who he decided was the bad person, and I didn't like it. I found it was kind of black and white, or you know, it's just not good. Didn't leave me feeling good. And he was, just gobbling up subscribers like nothing. Um, but I don't know, but after I met you guys, I realized, I think I was right about leaving that guy. I think you guys have really good skill and major insight, and obviously years of experience. So I just wondered if you knew of any channels that were like that, and should we be aware of? That's my question. Take care.
All right, thanks, Deborah. I really appreciate that. If you got a video, send it to me and I'll put that up as well. Now, there are quite a few channels that bug me to death. But I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to single anybody out and talk bad about them at all, because it's not my place to do that. And you know, it's just that their information thing that's frustrating you probably is their information isn't complete, and it may not be complete, may not be correct. And you can kind of feel that when you hear somebody because it sounds so out there. So they'll deliver it like, yeah, man, this is the way it is, but you still get that little feeling something's not right in there. And quite often it isn't, because there's a whole lot of people out there that are talking about body language now. There have been some before, but over the past 4 or 5 years, man, it's really blown up. So, and a lot of people are what I call Google um, experts, where they just Google stuff and then say, I'm an expert in this now. You can't do that. You have to have um, experience in the field before you can go out and talk about it and say, this is the way it is, because somebody may take that to heart and use that in their life, and you may be giving them bad information. So that's not good. So you got to make sure the person you're listening to and getting information from, you got to make sure that that information is valid and that they are a valid source for that information. Okay, so I can give you valid sources, but I'm not going to tell you, I can't tell you who to look out for. You know who they are, you know. So, because this is not cool. It's not cool for me to badmouth anybody. I would never do that. But I'll tell you some good ones. Go check out Joe Navarro's channel. That's a great one. His are 3 to 5 minute little shots of stuff. Man, that's great. And he's the King Kong of modern day body language, what we listen to and read and learn from. Okay, he's the guy. That's who you got to check out. Paul Ekman, Ekman. If you just search him in YouTube, you'll see all kinds of information on him and videos where he's talking. Everything he says you can take spot on. He and Joe too. That they're spot on and are valid. That I push all my chips on those guys. No questions about that. There's a guy named Dr. G. Go watch his stuff. Man, he's one of my favorites. So go watch his stuff. I really like him. And he's got the voice that sounds like he would do movies. Like if the whole being a psychologist thing didn't work out for him. He has that voice, or he could do all the Star Wars movies or, where things blow up and the world's coming to an end. That'd be the guy you'd call. So he's got sort of a double thing going on there. Great voice, but his information is good and it's spot on and it's valid. So go to Dr. G and check him out because you'll love it. Really good stuff there. A Spidey from the behavioral arts, his stuff's good. He's a magician, but he tells you the things he uses when dealing with other people, how you can tell what they're going to say. That's my fascination. And that started body language and human behavior is what the person is going to do next. And so his thing is he gets people, he tells you he can guess ahead of time what you're going to do. And the way he does it, he tells you how he does it. And so he breaks down true crime and all kinds of things, just like we do on the behavior panel and here. And but his stuff is good. You should check him out. Tracy Brown is good. She's good when it comes to fraud too. Fraud is that's my wheelhouse. I absolutely love the dealing with embezzlers, that kind of thing. I absolutely love that because you get a myriad of people in there. Everything from just the person who accidentally has found themselves able to steal money or take something and get away with it for a short time or even a long time. And they build this lifestyle around it. Oh, I love talking to them. And sometimes you get psychopaths in there because they don't care. A lot of psychopaths in that business of taking money, from businesses and banks and things like that. So I really love embezzlers. That's one of my favorites, my go-tos. And Tracy is good at that. Go listen to her. Her information is valid. There's a guy, the body language guy, Jesus. Go watch his stuff. Man, it's great. It looks great. Like here, when I do my stuff, I just turn my camera on, start talking and answering questions. Man, his look like a movie. They're really great. So if you're in the aesthetic of stuff as well as good and valid information, go check his stuff out. He's really good. You can't go wrong there. Dr. David Matsumoto. You can't go wrong there. That guy I put him on the same level as Joe Navarro and Paul Ekman. His research is going to be one of those that has a group of that's going to be around for years and years and years and years and years. Matsumoto. Moto. I always say Modu because I knew a guy named Modu in high school. But David Matsumoto. Moto. Dadgummit. And I always do that. But that's the one you got to check him out. Great information. Talk about valid. He didn't let anything get by. Nothing. He doesn't say, well, in my experience even. He just says, here's the way it is. Here's the study that does this. Here's what we know. You can take him for being valid as well. Matsumoto. So, and sorry about that, but I knew a guy in high school named Matsumoto, and mix those up. But yeah, thank you, Deborah. Now let's look at another video. That one, now we're into videos. This was from Lori.
Hey, Scott Rouse. I'm Lori Trini. I'm a retired police officer and an animal behaviorist in Colorado, and I have a question for you. Why do so many people write in or video in and ask you questions about psychopaths? I don't understand. Most of your episodes have the word psychopath or psychopathy in it, and I want to know why. Thanks.
Thanks, Lori. And now, just so you know, after I got this video, I went back and forth with her so she could tell me about how to feed the best food for squirrels and how to take care of them and stuff, because I got these little squirrels that come out in the yard and I feed them stuff. And I don't want to give them the same stuff over and over and over because it's not good for them. So she hooked me up with all the places to go research that. Having said that, The reason I do psychopaths so much is because I get so many questions about psychopaths. And since all I'm doing is answering questions on here, I'm looking for the thing that's going to make people see the thumbnail that I make and go, oh, I think that's interesting. And Psychopaths gets it every time. And somehow, and I think it's because from being on TV where I'm like either on Dr. Phil or the news or, News Nation, Newsmax, CNN, Fox, when I'm on those, it's always about a psychopath. So people have questions about that. And it's my favorite thing to talk about is a psychopath. I love it because I find them fascinating. I'm not saying they're fun. I'm not saying they're good because a lot of people go, I can't believe you find them fascinating. They've been mean to me. Of course they've been mean to you. They're psychopaths, but it just blows my mind how the brain works that allow you to do those horrible things. So that's why I usually have, I try my best to put as much about a psychopath or something about psychopathy in the title because people relate to that and people want to see it. And the ones that have the most views on here, I think I'm at almost 700,000 on one, but all the other ones deal with psychopathy. Those have the most views on them. So, I just like it. I just like it, like them, and so that's the reason. Because I answer all kinds of questions, but I get mostly questions about psychopaths. So that seems to be the road I'm on all the time in here. So that's why I do it because it helps with views. More people want to learn about that than they do about regulators and lip pursing and things like that. They want to know about psychopaths, which I do too. So I hope that helps. Thank you, Lori. And thanks for the information on the squirrels. Hi, Scott. You mentioned that in the past, when you have interrogated narcissistic type people, you would intentionally make them angry and insult them. Can you please explain why this happens and what happens after that? Do they disclose more information and give you more details about the case if they are angry? Now, when you're dealing with a narcissist and a psychopath as well, you got to be careful because you can't always make them mad. That's just one way to go about it. So yeah, I've said that before, and I've done that before. Like I said, and I've done it on Dr. Phil a couple of times. But so maybe that's why you're asking that as well. But you don't always do that because they may turn on you and you won't get anything. Quite often you have to get right up next to it's just when I look at those people like it's just an ego, and so I do things to help control that ego, so it makes them feel good and feel smart to tell me what they know. So if it takes making them angry and me saying, well, only an idiot would do this, this, and this, and they would say no, they wouldn't because of this, because they're the ones that did it. I'm not saying they do it every time, and it doesn't work every time. But that's a tact you can take from an interrogation perspective, when you're dealing with one that you are fairly sure, pretty sure is a narcissist. So that's my take on it. That's why I do it. But you have to be careful with that because it may go sideways on you. And if it does, then it's worse off than you were before you even started asking questions. So you got to be real careful with it, and you have to be experienced with it. So don't just go busting into somebody you know is a narcissist and make them mad and see if they're going to give you answers. You have to do it the right way. And there's no way for me to sit on here and explain in a video how to do that properly. I can tell you what to do and the steps and the protocol you could follow and try to do that, but there's so many things involved with it, I can't really walk you through it, or I would, and I'd tell you all about it. But you got to be careful with that. So don't go busting in, being all, angry and try to make one mad if you're fairly sure that's a narcissist, because you got to handle them a certain way when you do that, and you got to be ready for what the fallout that happens afterwards, because when you do make one mad, they're going to do one of 5 or 6 different things, and you have to know what those 5 or 6 different things are, and you have to have a backup plan for each one of those. So that's why I do it, and I've just gotten good at it over the years. So that's why it sounds like a flippant when it comes out of me. Sometimes I don't think about how crazy that sounds to do. I know a lot of people do it, and I train a lot of people to do it, but you have to do it correctly. Sometimes I forget I'm talking to people who aren't interrogators because of training and stuff. So it just comes out that way. Like, what I'm talking about when you may not know. So I try to be cognizant of that as often as I can. but sometimes it's tough because I start talking and I'm really comfortable talking on here to you. So I hope that helps. Dear Scott, are you always so calm and relaxed? You have a way of coming across as the friend next door. Is that just your personality? And for those who are not so calm, is that a warning sign? I'm always pretty calm. It takes a lot to rile me up, but when I do get riled up, well, there are a couple of things that really get on my last nerve. Somebody being mean to somebody, and so I'm not at that point. I do stay calm, but I get quiet, and if I get quiet, that usually, from my perspective, I'm pretty mad when I get quiet. So yeah, I'm always fairly calm. I'm not a freak out person really at all. So I don't know, but a friend next door. That's me. I'm your friend next door. I get what you're saying. No, I'm not making fun of you. Thank you very much for saying that. Um, but yeah, I guess it's my personality. It must be. Just your friend next door. All right. Hi, Scott. What do you think about white lies? You got to look at that as sort of like the oil that oils the cogs of social interaction. I think I got that from Joe Navarro. It's totally ripping it off from him. But that's what he said once. I believe it was Joe. And that just stuck in my brain. It's so easy to think and say because the little white lies are the things that keep everybody else from hating you. You can't just be you can't be honest about all of it. Can't be, what do you think about this? God, I think it's great. I like that. I like when a band would come in and say, "What do you think about that?" There was a guy named Tony Brown. He's a famous record producer in Nashville. One of the most potent cats in the world when it came to country music was Tony Brown, still is. And I noticed early on from hanging around him that no matter what your record sounded like, no matter what your song sounded like, no matter what your thing was you were doing, it was fantastic and you were going to be huge. This is the greatest thing in the world. This is man, you're on something here. And he would tell everybody that. Tony, if you're watching this, I'm saying this in a good way. I love you. I think you're awesome. But I noticed that's what you do. And it worked. So because everybody loves that guy. And he's one of the King Kongs of record producers. So he played piano with Elvis. Wow. So how's that for a little bragging rights there, a little feather in your cap, playing piano for Elvis. So I noticed that early on. And it's not that he's just bald-faced lying to them. He needs them to be in a good mood and to want to do well and to feel good about themselves. Because in the music business, man, you don't get a whole lot of people if you're just starting going, man, this is awesome. I get it. This is totally cool. Shoot, I'm a fan. I totally get it. Because some people need that. They never get it anywhere. And that may have been the first time they've heard that. And it's coming from like one of the most potent record producers in the world, if not the most potent in country music, he and Mutt Lange. So yeah, you got to have the little white lies sometimes because that helps people get along and you can't be honest about all of it. If you are, everybody's going to hate you, so that's what I think about him. Hi, Scott. Is there a movie psychopath you would really love to study or interrogate? Yeah. Everybody always asks, what was one from the past? I've got one if it was in a movie. Who would I? My favorite one from the movies, and the one I would want to talk to as that, if I could jump in the movie and talk to one and interview, not necessarily interrogate, but interview and just talk to him, see what's going on, would be Billy Bob Thornton in Fargo. I know I'm all the time talking about Billy Bob Thornton, how's my favorite actor and all that, but that's the one from Fargo because for me, dang man. He was awesome in that as a psychopath. There's the one No Country for Old Men. The guy who played the psychopath in that might be the best psychopath example of one. You say go watch that because overall it covers everything. His thing does. In that one, I can't remember that guy's name. He's got an awesome name, but in that movie. And I've only seen that like 3 times. I can't watch that. He freaks me out too bad. But Billy Bob Thornton, that's the one I want to talk to as his character in Fargo. when he was a psychopath. Man, he did such a great job in that. He's got this one out now on Prime or Paramount, I think. It's called Landman. Got to watch that. He's not a psychopath in that, but man, he's such a great actor. I won't go on talking about him, but I really like him a lot. Hi, Scott. What does sticking lips out imply? Like opposite of lip compression. Thanks. I think you're talking about lip pursing. And when someone purses their lips, they go like that. That usually indicates that they don't agree with what's happening. And maybe a little bit of anger in there comparing when you talk about what else is going on in the face, you know. But usually it indicates that they don't agree with what just happened or what they just heard or what's being presented when you see pursed lips. Now, when lips are pursed to the side like this, they may not agree with what's happening. At the same time, they have an alternate outcome in mind. So that's why they would do, you would see them pursed to the right or to the left. But like I always say, you see bowlers do that when they're bowling and the ball be going down, they want to go over here and they go, but it's going over that way and they're going like that because they see a different outcome. They want it to go more over this way than over that way. So I hope that helps. Hi, Scott. I watched your video with Greg on Dr. Phil on the disappearance of Summer Wells. It felt to me like Greg's voice was different when conducting the interview. I'm assuming this is by choice. So why did Greg choose to adapt his voice and what was the purpose? Okay, that goes back to what we were talking about sort of in a way a minute ago when you're talking to a narcissist. I'm not saying either one of those, Don or Candace, were narcissists. That's not what I'm saying. But you sort of, when you go into an interrogation, you have to get a feel for what's happening. You have to get a baseline on that person. You have to assess the situation. And once you see what's going on, what kind of personality type you're dealing with, are they mad that day? Are they in a good mood that day? Are they on? Are they wary of what's going to happen? You have to approach it from a specific perspective. And in that perspective, we were dealing with two people. One we for sure thought had nothing to do with that child's disappearance, and that's the father, Don. Nothing to do with it whatsoever. Still stand by that. And then the mother, Candace, I still feel like there were a lot of things that her body language showed or suggested that she knew more than what she was saying about that situation. So we had to go in really easy with her because we didn't want to upset her or make her mad because we needed to keep her nice and happy and keep that conversation flowing. So when the time did come to get to the point of all that, we didn't use Greg. It went to me to get in there and say, hey, what about this? Because there's that thing, good cop, bad cop, that you always hear about, when somebody's mean, somebody's nice. And it looks like we're both being nice in that, fairly nice. But if you listen to what Greg says and you listen to what I say, and then when she comes over and starts looking at me, you'll see what's happening there. That's the subtleties of that. It's not always, you did so-and-so, and the other one going, hey, man, you've got to be cool because you don't understand this. It's not like that at all. So it's a subtle thing sometimes, and that's what was happening there. So you saw his voice different than what you're hearing because we both had to approach it from that same calm demeanor as we went forward, as we slowly got aggressive toward her, and at the same time trying not to be aggressive to Dawn because he had nothing to do with it, but it had to look sort of even and equal, so we could go to him and pretend we're blowing off steam and then come back to her. All the time it looks like it's calm and sounds like it's calm. So that's why he was talking that way. But listen to what he was saying. Listen to what he was saying. And the delivery of what he is saying is so important. It's like me saying to you, right now, this is, what a beautiful day. This is actually awesome. And I'm so glad you're here. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut your head off. And I'm going to do it slow so it doesn't really hurt that bad. It's going to hurt really bad, but at the beginning, it's not going to hurt that bad. It's just going to scare you. So as you deliver that information, it's like, what? It sounds psychopathic. It's crazy. But at the same time, it's really calming so your brain doesn't freak out right at the beginning. If I was to go, I'm going to cut your head off and I'm going to do this, it's going to hurt and all that, then all of a sudden it's a different situation because everything is turned on at that point. But slowly but surely, if I'm saying it the other way, it's dawning on you, this guy's crazy. So it's your approach that affects that person's not just mental state, their mental state as well as their physical state. So if you're giving them something that's tough question-wise, quite often you need to deliver it so it's fairly calm to keep them from bowing up and doing all that. Because as soon as your body starts bowing up, then you're going to go into this little meltdown, shutdown thing and start setting up walls. So if you introduce those questions and that information calmly, like everything's cool, everything's under control, everything's calm, man, everything's good, but I just need to know about this. That's different because everything stays calm. They may get worked up or whatever, but you can still calm them down at that point. But that's why he was doing that, because it's important to deliver that questioning in a specific way for that specific personality type. I hope that helped. I hope I didn't get too far out there on you. Hi, Scott. What exactly tipped you off about Erin Caffey? Why is she the most dangerous you've seen? That's a full-blown psychopath to me, in my opinion. Could be wrong. Got to say all that. Because she didn't care about her parents and her brother. She had no feelings whatsoever about someone coming in to kill her parents. That she asked, she got him to come in and kill her parents and her little brother. Didn't bother her at all, not even a little bit. That's scary to me. That was scary. And she was laughing. Go watch that thing, the Dr. Phil interview with her, with Erin Caffey. She laughed at the wrong times. It was just, that's classic psychopath right there. If you want to see one, go watch that. That's what they look like. So and her friends didn't know it. Her family didn't know it. Nobody knew it. But that's the way they are. And they can be at any age, So that's what tipped me off, was listening to her. Just when Dr. Phil would ask her questions, her answers, some of them were they're just not right. You listen to you go, what did she say? Did she say that? That's when you do that, then you know something's up. And she's just all being all serious or laughing or smiling when she shouldn't be. Oof, when you're talking about somebody being killed, your parents or your brother or sister, man. So yeah, right. It didn't take very long, but right out of the gate, man, something wasn't right, and that's what it was. So that's what tipped me off, was her answers. Of course, that's all you've got in those situations, but it's the way she answered the questions, early on. You can't make the decision, oh, this is a psychopath, that early on, but you can say, wait a minute, this might be something here. Let's listen to this. Let's keep listening closer. When all those answers come out and they're not right, or most of them, something's not right. And that's what wasn't right with her. So I hope that helps. Hey, Scott, if someone was intentionally lying, but everyone around them was supporting him and also lying, would that person show signs of deception because he may be less stressed? Yeah, they're still going to be there. They won't be as big because he's going to have more confidence with them. You won't see as many single shoulder shrugs or really quick shoulder shrugs, those types of cues, because they'll be really confident with what's happening because they've got people to back them up. So they can come on with a little more confidence. But the more questions you ask and the longer you go, you'll start seeing those. And when you see these cues go off, these little clusters of cues, you'll say, oh, I need to ask more questions about this. When everything starts happening, let me find out more about that specific thing. So it may take a little bit longer. If you don't pay attention, a couple of things may get by. But if you're going to talk to them for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, you'll see it in there. You'll see it in there. So it may help them, but in the end, you'll be able to see. Hi, Scott. I'd love to hear some of your suggestions as to which interviews with psychopaths are the best to watch and learn from. That is a good question. That is an episode. I'll do an episode on that. Thank you for that question, man, because there are so many that are really good. That's what I'll do. Thank you for that. So I'll do an episode on those because of your question. So thanks. That's awesome. That's what I'm going to do. Let me write that down real quick. Are people less able to detect body language signs of deception, manipulation, and danger in the people they are falling in love with than in other people? If so, is there a biological reason that love is blind, or do people choose not to see the deception because they want a fairy tale to be true? I think you just answered your own question. Yeah, a lot of times people just let that, love is blind. When you have a crush on somebody, you let all that stuff go because you see that person you think is going to be perfect for you. And they're wonderful. That's what I want. That's the kind of person I want to hang out with, be with. So a lot of times you'll see um, people just go, and you'll see your friend, you'll see him blast right past those things, and they'll ignore it. And later on, you're going to say, "I told you, man. I told you she's crazy." Or you'll say, "I told you, man, he's nuts." You just don't do that. So they won't see it. But that's the way and you can't step in sometimes and say, "Hey, man, that person's bad for you. It's going to make both of them mad." If they end up dating and end up together, then there you are. And if nothing's wrong with them, you just don't like the way they do or approach specific situations, then there you have it. There you are. So that's why you got to watch your mouth when somebody breaks up, because quite often they'll get back together and you just badmouth them. You know what? Oh, I never liked him, never liked her. Oof, you got to be careful with that. Ooh, but yeah, a lot of times people let a lot of stuff go because they want that fairy tale to be true. They want them to be the perfect person for them. It's a good question. Hi, Scott. Is there a body language subculture in people with beards? Not that I know of. No, I don't. The only studies I'm aware of with people with beards is people don't trust them as much. It's true. I think it was IBM that did studies on that. They found that after interviewing people with beards, they didn't trust them as much as they did with people who didn't have a beard. As crazy as that sounds. So brown suits, no. Beards, no. So they found the same thing with brown suits. People don't trust somebody in a brown suit as much as they do in a black suit or a dark blue suit. So I'm not aware of a body language subculture for people with beards, but you must have a beard. I tried to grow a beard once, and it just, believe me, bad idea on my part. Really bad. I'm one of those people that can't have a beard. I'm not a hat person either, but I have to wear this because my hair is too long, and it just looks worse when it's not cut than it does wearing this hat. So, and that's why I remember I did a thing on here where I wear my Hattie B's hat backwards. And people say, "You're too old to be wearing your Hattie B's hat backwards." But if I put it on forwards, I look like Elmer Fudd's cousin. So that's why I have to wear it that way. Anyway, let's see what's next. Hi, Scott. Is it possible for animals to be psychopaths, sociopaths, or narcissists? I don't know. The animals that I know that I hang out with, like my dogs, like Hattie, and then my other dog, Albert, he passed away in 2020. Those dogs have emotion or had emotion. Albert did, and Hattie does. And they're emotional. They really are, man. You can hurt their feelings. And I think we've all seen that donkey on Instagram where the girl has been gone for like a month and she has a pet donkey and she comes back and the donkey freaks out and starts hollering and can't get close enough to her, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think they have emotions. So at the same time, I guess they could be psychopaths. I don't know squat about animal neurology, the brains of a cat or the brain of a cat or a dog or anything. But I feel in my heart they have emotion. So obviously, I don't think maybe an alligator wouldn't, a reptile maybe, or a snake. I don't know anything about their brains, so I don't know. I don't know if they can or not. It's a good question, you know. So I have to tell you, I don't know that one. I'm sorry. Hi, Scott. Can you spot deception in texts? Oh, that's a good question. You need to listen to is Peter Hyatt. Go to Peter Hyatt's channel. If you want to know anything about deception, somebody has written it down or texted it to you. That's the guy. Peter Hyatt, Hyatt. Go check out his channel. I bet he's covered that on there. That's my go-to anyway. It's him. You know, I'll email him or something if I got a question. I'm gonna email him today. Hi, Scott. Do you think Gordon Ramsay would be a good interrogator? uh, I don't know. I think he'd be into, okay, since you're asking me that question, you're thinking, okay, with what you've seen of him and his personality type and all that, would he make a good one for what you know about him? But I would think he might, I'm not sure how interested he would want to be in learning how to be one. So I'm just being realistic here. He might want to know how it worked, but he may not want to sit down and do the work to become one and to learn all that because he's so busy. But I think maybe so. I know you're saying that because he comes on pretty tough when somebody, a lot of times. You ever seen anybody go up against him? One time on one of those shows, on one of his shows, some big looking tough guy came up and said, "All right, let's go outside or something." And then Gordon Ramsay starts talking. Let me tell you, man, go look that up. I don't know how you look that up though. If you looked up Ramsay argument, it would be Gordon Ramsay fight or almost fight. Look up something like that. Man, he starts talking to this guy, totally shuts him down, and you'll leave, watch that thing, go, ooh, I don't think Gordon Ramsay would be somebody you want to mess with. So it really depends. He'd have to want to be, but I think he would make a good one if he wanted to be. I think he's one of those types of people, because and not just because he's a tough guy, but because he could. I think he could think his way through that and do really well with it. I think he would be a good one. Yeah, if he was into it, I think he'd make a good one. Hey, Scott, what does request for approval look like? All right, that's something that Greg Hartley came up with. And request for approval is where you're giving someone information and you're hoping they believe it. You're like, please believe what I'm saying. So your eyes go up like this, and that's request for approval. As you're talking to somebody, you do it. We all do it. You're hoping they understand, or do you understand what I'm saying? You're requesting their approval. You get it? That kind of thing. So that's when your eyebrows go up like that and stay as you ask a question, and maybe your tone goes up like that. That is a request for approval body language cue. So when your eyebrows go up like that and stay as you're asking a question, in other words, you're asking for approval there. It's a good question. Hi, Scott. What is the difference between an adapter and a regulator? All right, great. That's a good question. So an adapter, as we know, that's the way you get rid of that built up stress and tension. All kinds of adapters, and there's all types of ways of doing that, Now, when you're getting rid of that built up stress and tension, you may do what I just did and push right here on your face real quick, then let go. Because when you push on part of your face, that muscle will tighten up a little bit and then it'll relax and help you relax. You may do something like that. Rub on your face like that, pull on your ear or squish your ear. You may do this with your hand. You may squish your hand together and let it go. Or you may squeeze your arm and then let it go. Or you may do your neck. All kinds of different little things you can do to get rid of that built up stress and tension to help you calm down when something's going on. Also, you've got any repetitive move like this is an adapter as well. That's a self-soothing cue. That's what happened. When you see someone doing that, that's what that suggests. When they're jiggling their leg, that's another one. There's so many things that a quick scratch like that if somebody's talking or one of those. All kinds of different things. Anytime you see someone, squish a muscle or tighten up a muscle and let it go as you're asking them a question or as they're talking or if they're being interviewed, then those are the ways people are getting rid of that built up stress and tension. Adjusting in a seat a little bit. That can be one as well. You could adapt that way. Chewing on your mouth. All kinds of different things like that. And a regulator is the way a person controls the conversation. They may say, hang on just a second. Wait a second. Wait a minute. So those are regulators because you're regulating that conversation. You may say, hey, you go over there and then you come over this way. You're regulating that situation. You're taking control of it and regulating it, slowing things down or speeding them up. What do you got, man? Tell me what the problem is. Let's hear it. So these are the ways you regulate what's happening in that situation, in that conversation. So the adapters are the way you get rid of that built up stress and tension, and regulators are the way you control the conversation from a body language perspective. All right, if you got any questions about body language, just email them to me, bodylanguagequestions@gmail.com, and I'll get right on it.